What's up, everyone? It's your boy SHAF, aka That Mill Guy, here with some more paper modern gameplay. We're doing Esper Mill versus Dimir Mill, bit of a mirror, and I thought this would be super fun, especially for, the mill deck being on the rise, everyone returning to paper, wondering what this mirror match is like, and a lot of people actually making mistakes, in my opinion, as to how they approach this matchup, how they sideboard, and I can hopefully showcase that with these games between Grace and I. But before we get into these specifics, I want to give two quick announcements for the channel. First and foremost, hitting 1,000 subs. As many of you know, big for me. The channel is finally monetizing. You're going to be seeing a lot more ads. I'm trying not to make them obnoxious, and I'm going to work on that a little bit. Okay, it's me first time dealing with it, but I also want to do a giveaway for that as well, and I just want to work on the logistics on my end first before I announce anything, so stay tuned. Second of all, there's going to be a big push forward and a big kind of shift, I guess, in terms of the content on this channel. There is still going to be Moto content, so you're going to be seeing the Dimir Mill, like the modern leagues, I should say. But I'm going to do more paper content and more EDH content. That's right. I've been rediscovering my love for the format, and I want to be doing a lot more EDH content, whether that be deck techs or gameplay, and those are definitely going to be mill focused as well. So playing mill in different archetypes and of EDH, different colors, and as well as showing you 1v1 paper EDH content, 4-player pod EDH content, alongside the modern 1v1 content, whether that be mill or non-mill decks, whatever it is. So look out for that. You're still going to be seeing Moto gameplay up on the streams, but for now, this is where I want to take the channel and just make that next big push to bring more people into this archetype and get people to love mill through different aspects, really. And then that's ultimately what the goal has been, right? Get people to love this archetype, because I think people have started to love modern mill or hate it or recognize it. So I think goal number 1 has been achieved. Let's get more people on board. Goal number 2. So let's hop into the games here. First and foremost, I win the die roll 10-6. Easy enough. We both reveal Luros, and that's pretty good information because I know Grace isn't doing anything like Ashiok Dream Render or Ashiok Nightmare Weaver or Ensnaring Bridge in the main board. Cool. That's good information. Now, we're going to go to our opening 7s here. I get lucky, and I actually get to keep a 7 that looks like this. So 2 Hedron Crabs, an Island, Watery Grave, Prismatic Ending, Archive Trap, Fractured Sanity. Now, this is technically like a mull to 6 because it can't cast the Prismatic Ending, and I don't actually have an answer to an opposing turn 1 Crab. Spoiler alert, that's going to be a little relevant. But the hand is really solid. You would keep the 6 in the blind. Of course you would. You would keep the 7 in the blind. The Prismatic Ending could be any other card. This is a solid hand. I shouldn't have to argue for this. Grace, on the other hand, is going to see a 7 that he doesn't like. In this case, he's going to see 2 Crabs, 2 Tashas, Drowned Visions. Unfortunately, the land he sees, the one land, is a swamp. So he told me he might consider it as an island, but likely would have shipped it anyway. It's a one-lander that doesn't accelerate that well. So cool. We see another 7, Grace does, with 2 Crabs, Fractured Sanity, Archive Trap, Swamp, Prismatic, and bottoms of Surgical. If you kind of see how this hand works, it's very similar to the hand I have. It's a mull to 6, because, I can't cast my Prismatic, and 2 lands, 2 mill spells, 2 Crabs. There's some slight differences, but this is going to be a funny game 1. Let's get right to it. Starting off the game strong, I go Island into a Hedron Crab and pass the turn. Grace draws for the turn, plays a Prismatic Vista, and cracks it right away. Grace then grabs an Island, plays a Hedron Crab like me, and this truly does become the mirror match. I untap. I then tap for 1, play my second Hedron Crab, and then shock in my Watery Grave. I shock in a Watery Grave because life totals don't really matter in this matchup, so I'm just going to pretend like I have a Fatal Push or a Visions up. Grace untaps, taps 1, plays a Ruin Crab, but then only plays a Swamp. No shock. So we see some differences here, but again, truly the mirror match. I mill my 6, and he passes the turn from there. I'm going to start things off not with the land drop, but with the Surgical and targeting the Visions of Beyond. I already got 3 Archive Traps in there, so I want to make sure that Grace doesn't have any way to accelerate if things get out of hand. Looking at his hand, I see that Grace has, an Archive Trap, a Fractured Sanity, a Hedron Crab, and a Crypt. So, alright, the Crypt Incursion doesn't do anything for me, and I'm pretty scared about, Grace getting a land drop with that last Crab. But what's nice here is that, I do have a land in my hand, but I don't need to forcibly use it, and Grace is off color from casting the Fractured Sanity. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm able to control what's going to happen with Grace so far, so let's hope he doesn't draw anything crazy. I opt to leave the 1 Visions of Beyond in the graveyard for Visions of Beyond counts on my end, and as well because there's no recursion in Grace's deck. I then play a Field of Ruin with no targets as always, and get Grace to mill 6. Fortunately for me, Grace doesn't find a land by the looks of it, so he decides to cycle a Fractured Sanity, gets me to mill 4, and tries to draw into something else. Fortunately enough, it doesn't look like he draws a land either, so he passes the turn, and I feel pretty good, feeling like I'm kind of going to start taking control of this game. I keep things simple on my end. I'm just going to play a Ruin Crab, I don't have a land drop, and I'm just going to pass the turn. Grace on his turn is going to hit the jackpot. He's going to start things off by playing a Ruin Crab and making that land drop that he's been looking for with the Prismatic Vista. Grace is going to fetch for a basic island out of his Prismatic, and I'm kind of looking over on that side a little warily because obviously that is Drown in the Loch mana. After I mill another 9, I'm going to cast my Archive Trap. Grace is going to promptly respond with the Drown in the Loch. The Drown in the Loch is going to resolve, so I'm just going to cycle a Fractured Sanity, hope for a land drop, and try and make things work on my end. I'm going to start things off with the sauce. I'm going to play Visions of Beyond to draw 3 cards. I managed to find another crab, so I'm going to play that, make a land drop, and then make Grace mill 12. After that, I say to myself, what's better than drawing 3 cards? Well, drawing 6 cards. I'm going to cast another Visions. After that, I pass the turn, knowing that if I can untap safely here, I know I can win this game. So let's just hope Grace draws dead. On his turn, Grace kind of scares me a little. He asks me how many cards are left in my library, and I say 14, which kind of worries me. Is he going to go land into a Fractured Sanity? Thankfully, no. He's going to play a Hedron Crab, into a land drop and get me to mill 12. I'm 2 cards left in library, but hey, that's not lethal. So the only thing I have left to play around is literally just the last Drown in the Loch. I'm going to untap. I looked through my graveyard a little bit and realized that I don't have any more fetchable lands, so I'm just going to shock in a Watery Grave, get Grace to mill 12. I'm then just going to really go for it and just hold up the Drown mana. There's nothing else I can do. I'm going to play the Tashas, and well, Grace doesn't have it. So there you go. There's the win with Grace only having like 3 cards left in his library. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. We're going to game 2. All right, we're coming off of a win. Let's see what we can do in terms of sideboarding to make sure we secure this. Or let's see what Grace can do. Try and push this game back a little bit. So let's start things off with Grace since he's going to be on the play. His sideboarding is going to be -1 Visions of Beyond, minus a Surgical, 2 Extirpates, and a Crypt Incursion. Makes sense. This is not going to be a life total battle, so Crypt Incursion's gone. Decides to remove Visions of Beyond because I've always talked about how Visions is going to be the mirror breaker here. A lot of these matchups can be a little grindy if you don't have Archive Traps on either side. So Visions of Beyond, subtracting 1 is going to reduce the chances of me finding one by milling it over and surgicaling it, and also reducing the value that surgical gets. Where we're going to differ a little bit is him taking out the extirpates and the surgical extractions, but he does bring in some pretty solid cards in the 2 Mystical Disputes, 2 Test of Talents, which is again counterspell with surgical attached onto it, and the EE to the Engineered Explosives to deal with opposing crabs. Now, where I'm going to sideboard in is going to be the 2 Blossoming Calms, the Extirpate, and 3 Mystical Disputes, taking out 4 Tashas, a Crypt, and a Kaya's Guile. I'm going to love Blossoming Calm here, and I'm going to push it forward here because of the fact that it gives me, forget the life total, it's the hexproof. Remember that Hedron Crab, Archive Trap, stuff like that is still targeting. So cards like that are very key because you're going to be able to get out that free value for 1. Imagine stopping the Archive Traps for 2 turns straight. So that's going to be a spicy little add I'm going to get from white. And Extirpate, I'm actually really in love with this card in post board. If you're able to get away key cards in the matchup, cards like Visions of Beyond actually reduce a lot in terms of value. So you can actually leave Visions of Beyond in the graveyard and then take away the Archive Trap, which means they're not actually drawing mill spells. You can take away the Fractured Sanity, whatever. Mystical Dispute, no brainer. Tasha's Hideous Laughter, in my opinion, is the single worst card in this matchup. It is a card that's going to get even less value post-board because you're going to be, facing up against a mill deck that's going to bring in Mystical Dispute, Test of Talents. They're going to be upping the average CMC of their deck, along with stuff like Fractured Sanity and Archive Trap. So you got to take out Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and I think that's where the matchup's going to differ, but we'll see where Grace can kind of push back. Crypt Incursion makes sense, and again, Kaya's Guile does absolutely nothing in this matchup. Just take it out. Absolutely nothing. In terms of opening hands, again, let's start off with Grace because he's going to be on the play. Keeps a 4-land, 3-spell hand with 2 Field of Ruins, an Island, Polluted Delta, a Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Fractured Sanity, and an Archive Trap. He likes his hand because it has a lot of potential. Seems a little slow, but again, lots of potential, especially on the play. If I fetch early, that Archive Trap gets a lot of value, and then Fractured Sanity can help him draw into some other stuff. Nice and solid there. In terms of myself, I see another kind of keepable 7 that's also a kind of mull on a 6. I see a prismatic ending, which is going to be pretty solid, especially because I have a polluted delta, so it's not exactly a mull to 6, so I'm going to be able to cast it. And then I also have a surgical, extirpate, crab, fractured sanity, 2 lands. Cool. Again, is this a good Dimir hand? Is this a good keep on 6? Yes, it is. Forget the prismatic ending. This is going to be a solid hand. I have an answer for an opposing crab that I might be kind of worried about here. And then I'm also have a crab on my own to provide for pressure. What I especially love is the extirpate. If I can get off something early, then I'm going to be able to deal with something on upkeep at end step that I think Grace is going to get off on me, so I can fetch, mill an archive trap over, and then while I still hold priority, I can actually extirpate and archive trap before Grace is able to kind of punish me for my fetching. So I'm really liking the optionality I have of this hand. Let's get right into it. We both got a keepable 7, and let's see how the games go. Now, while I remove my Video Ninja background, Grace is going to start us off, well, after revealing theirs, with an island and passing the turn. Now, that actually makes me feel pretty damn good. That means there's no Hedron Crab off the start. And so I'm going to, well, blow his mind with my own Hedron Crab with an island into 1 itself. Grace, hope you have an answer. Well, Grace plays a Field of Ruin and just passes the turn. I'm thinking, oh, this is one of those slow interactive hands. It might even be looking for black. It's probably a Drown and some Mystical Dispute. So I'm going to untap. I'm going to attempt to resolve a Hedron Crab of my own and then shock in a Watery Grave for land drop. It resolves, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And after some milling, I'm going to extirpate the Fractured Sanity that I see, because I'm thinking, okay, blue and colorless. And guess what? Our desires have been met, and we managed to get it out of his hand. I'm feeling pretty good, and Grace exclaims in frustration. Now, extirpate forces me to take out all copies, unfortunately, so I can't keep the 1 copy in there, but I get to see the uninteractive hand that Grace actually keeps. So all I have to worry about is fetching, which I can control thanks to the archive trap, the Tasha's, which is feeling pretty good about, and then don't even have to worry about the 3 lands over there. So I'm actually feeling through the moon considering the hand I have, but again, the prismatic ending that I have is kind of dead. So I'm going to pass the turn. Grace is going to draw, play Field of Ruin, and force away my Watery Grave, which is a good plan. He wants to get me off black. And I kind of realize that as well, so I'm thinking, okay, I've already cast my extirpate. I don't think Drown is going to help at this point. I'm already tempoing him out. Let me get a basic Plains to cast my Blossoming Calm and get a prismatic and keep my prismatic ending alive, for any crabs that hit the battlefield on the future. Grace grabs an island himself. After getting me to search my library, Grace archive tries me. So I go to mill 13 because I got no response, and lo and behold, he has another one. So I'm going to mill 26 cards in total, and I'm thinking, oh lordy lord, I decided to get white and not black. I potentially might be locked out of that color in general, so hopefully I mill away my Drowning Locks, because those might be very damn uncastable at this point. Now there's the matter of me resolving my Hedron Crab triggers. I get Grace to mill 6. I see the singular visions of Beyond. I think, okay, snag. I'm going to grab that, stop any future top decks, because I know Grace doesn't have one in hand. He would have cast it because he knows and sees that I'm defenses down. So let's take those out. Unfortunately, I see the Tasha's in hand, which is pretty damn scary, and the fact that Grace only has 3 visions in his deck. Now, that does make me feel better in terms of if we do go to game 3, he's less likely to have those top decks, but the Tasha's in hand is scary regardless. Let's see what happens on my turn. On my turn, I'm going to play my fetch land, and well, the problem is I don't have any black sources to get, so that's kind of scary in terms of top decks, but I still do have another land and some options to get. So I'm going to shock in a Hallowed Fountain, which is going to help me eventually get to the multiple blue sources I need to cast my spells. I'm going to then get Grace to mill his 12. After that, I'm going to pass. I don't have many options right now, I'm not going to lie, so I'm really just clenching my butt here, hoping that Grace doesn't do anything. He untaps, draws his card. Gray is feeling pretty smug about the situation, is going to, well, get me to mill 6 here. He's going to play his Hedron Crab, he's going to play a Polluted Delta, fetch to shock in a Watery Grave. He's then going to Field of Ruin my damn Hallowed Fountain, which makes me feel a little bit worse. Maybe I shouldn't have fetched that, but it's fine, because even though he gets to mill 3 off this trigger and I lose my land, I still get to mill him for 6. I still have options in my hand, and you'll see them in a sec. He gets a Swamp, which makes me feel pretty good. Swamp doesn't mean interaction like Mystical Dispute. I grab an Island. I'm going to draw my card per turn, and thankfully, I still have a Hallowed Fountain left in my hand to shock in and get my 3 mana sources. Knowing that Grace's defense is down with that basic swamp up, I'm going to pay 3 and cast my Fractured Sanity. Gotta love paying 3 to mill 14, and well, Grace is done. He's only got 7 cards left, so Esper Mill takes the win. All right, Mill just beat Mill. And I'll tell you what, it's a win for Esper Mill, but is it really? I didn't really get to cast a single white card at all. Let me know what you thought of the games down below, and let me know what decks you want to see next. Some people have already mentioned wanting to see some tribal strategies. Some people have DM'd me and told me that they want to see some tier decks like Hammer, Murktide, and some people have said they want to see some non-mill games. So let me know specifically. I'm actually going to be bringing, as I said in the beginning of the video, some Commander gameplay, so look out next week for some 1v1 high-powered Commander. Maybe not CEDH directly, but proxies are allowed, so high-powered Commander. Check those games out, and remember that even the impossible is possible. And as we ponder that thought, I hope you'll join me next time as we take a glimpse into the unthinkable.